And a one, and a two. All right, we are back from break, and we are joined with us right now a man named Dave Seel. Please introduce yourself, sir. Thank you.
I'm Dave Seel, as Evan so well put. I am the co-founder and board president of the Baltimore Restaurant Relief Fund. I'm also the principal of Blue Fork Marketing.
Please describe to us what Blue Fork Marketing does.
So Blue Fork Marketing is an integrated marketing firm that specializes in food and beverage, lifestyle, and real estate brands. So we do everything from social media, PR, graphic and web design, pretty much all of the marketing strategies we kind of cover, and focused, a lot of my work is, again, with restaurants in and around the city. There's not many restaurants or chefs and restaurant people that I haven't worked with in some capacity or that I just consider friends. Been doing that for about 4 years. Previous to that, I was the director of marketing for the Bagby Restaurant Group, which included 1010 American Bistro, Fleet Street Kitchen, Bagby Pizza, Cunningham's at the time. So been around Baltimore for about 9 years doing that stuff.
So you would say you've essentially, at this point, you've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on in terms of, restaurants in the city. And at this point, in this time of need, you have established a fund entitled the Baltimore Restaurant Relief Fund. Is that?
That's right. So the fund was born out of a Facebook group that I started on March 16th, which is basically when the sort of pandemic closed everything down here in Baltimore, all of the restaurants and retail locations. And I started it primarily because I am a problem solver, and I knew that I had a lot of questions, and I knew that a lot of other people had questions. And I knew that there would be a need for resources. So I started the Baltimore Restaurant Relief Group on Facebook in a way to just basically galvanize people together, bring people together, create a sense of community, and then compile resources and answers. And then out of that, and in subsequent conversations with different people, we began to, get a sense that there needed to be sort of a financial mechanism where people could support the restaurant industry, because there wasn't one specifically focused on restaurant relief in Baltimore. And so we were able to start a 501c3, get our 501c3 pushed through, and start collecting funds.
And so if we're going to, whip out the cardboard thermometer, what level of funding are you at this point?
So right now, we're right around the $50,000 mark.
Nice.
So that's been raised that in the last 2 months. It'll probably go beyond that as we have a number of initiatives and fundraising campaigns that are active currently and haven't been paid into the fund yet. So yeah, I'm gunning for $100,000 and then beyond. So, we've stayed focused on that goal.
Very good. So before we get into the logistics of how these payments would work, I guess I would like to tell you that this past Friday, we set up a backyard bistro at a friend's house in Hamden. We had 2 guests, one of which was the owner of Idle Hour, a bar that is currently basically not in operation. And we've raised some money, and we're going to give it to you.
Oh, thanks. That's so awesome.
Yeah, and we're going to do a couple more. We're going to do a couple more of these going forward. We've sort of figured out how it can be done responsibly, and we have a ballpark estimate of what people would be willing to pay. But yeah, all of it is going to go to your fund, at least this one.
Wonderful. I really appreciate it, Evan. And,
Yeah.
definitely send me all the information. I'd be happy to like promote that as well.
For sure. I think because we've done this after the fact, that it was a test run. We had those and things like that. That I'll put it in some presentable form, and we'll get you that link, whatever it may be. It's probably going to be a blog post. I don't know, but yeah, going forward, we're going to have maybe two tops, out back of this person's house, and have like a very nice dining experience, and raise as much goddamn money as we can to help out our service industry friends.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you. I mean, well, thank you. So, so logistically, this fund, like, are people just emailing you and saying like, hey, I'm off unemployment, but I don't have a job yet again. So how is this going to work?
Yeah, so this past Friday, we launched our first grant program, which is the 100 for 100 grant. Basically, the first $10,000 that we raised, we wanted to give back to the workers. That was really important to support not only, restaurant owners or restaurateurs, but primarily all of the myriad of workers that have been struggling this whole time. And I wish we could have done it sooner, but with all of the logistics, 2 months, I guess, was pretty much as quick as we could get it done. And so the 100 for 100 grant is basically $100 for 100 people. We decided on that after polling the Baltimore Restaurant Relief Group and saying, we basically gave them a couple options, $250 for 40 people, $200 for 50 people, $100 for 100 people, and just basically saying, hey, how much do you want to, how many people do you want to support? And it was far and away, people were like, we need to help as many people as possible. And so we have basically set that up, and we are currently, at least at the time of this recording, accepting applications. The application will be closed tonight, which is, so probably by the time this is released, it will have been closed. And we'll see, basically what that will then do is that will be, those applicants will then be randomized, and we'll select the 100 people out of those people who have applied. And then basically pay them out via PayPal. And what we're trying to do is focus on people who haven't received or have applied for unemployment or been denied unemployment, or been approved but haven't received funds yet, which there's a number of people in that boat, as well as the myriad of people who, for different reasons, just couldn't apply in the first place. So we're trying to help as many of those folks as possible through this mechanism. And then from there, we're gonna basically, the board's gonna go back and we're gonna kind of try and figure out what how this particular grant program worked, and what the community needs are, and go from there.
So the if I'm reading this right, there is sort of a priority list in terms of who will get a payment, but at the end of the day, it's sort of randomized in terms of the 100 people that are going to get payout. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to keep it as equitable as possible, and I think that's
that's such a huge challenge to decide who gets.
No, don't get me started.
Yeah, I imagine people are just. I mean, like, you must be under a landslide of applicants at this point, because there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of people that are currently not working and not, if they are getting unemployment, like, I mean, I have to be honest, like I have a couple of friends that are bartenders that are like, yeah, I'm getting more money right now than I ever did as a bartender. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, don't get used to it because,
Mm-hmm.
this is over. You're going back to work, like it or not. And we're getting this sort of draconian situation where in places where people can go back to work, they're like, no, I'm still cutting those checks. And it's like, uh-oh, I don't want people to get like snitched on. I don't want this to happen. But what you're doing right now is essentially designed to bridge the gap between unemployment and employment. Is that correct?
I mean, I think it's more of a support system
Okay.
for those people who basically are falling through the cracks. That's really what I see it as. And there's a fair bit of people falling through the cracks. And so I want to provide, we want to provide an opportunity to basically say, hey, we've got you, or at least, here's $100. Hopefully that goes far, I mean, that's like a
20
week's
loaves of
worth
bread.
of yeah, a week's worth of groceries, whatever, um, whatever they need to spend it on. So, we really want to just basically help where and provide help where we can. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you see this, so post quarantine, post pandemic, do you see this evolving into anything else, or is this kind of just the one?
No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think, the main factor of why we started this really was because there aren't these types of support systems in Baltimore, and people representing Baltimore restaurants, on a state level. So, because we're a 501c3, we can't do any legislative work or lobbying in that way. But we are actively working on it. We have a team that I'm kind of a part of as well. That's actively working on looking at starting a 501c4, which would be a political action group or an advocacy group, for, pushing for and basically sitting at the table, being a group that can sit at the table down in Annapolis and say, hey, these are the types of things that we'd like to see that will continue to help us, recover. Things along the lines of, my hope is that these liquor laws will continue to be relaxed, or like continue to be relaxed for a period of time where, if restaurants are, can only operate at 25% or 50% capacity, they're going to need that alcohol, that carry out alcohol revenue to sustain themselves. So, that's a hope. And there's a number of.
I'm going to need the carry out to sustain me.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. Like, we were out yesterday, and did notice a large amount of foot traffic, which is a little disconcerting. But the idea that we lived in a world where we were not allowed to do this, and now we're allowed to do this, and it seems to be going okay. I think the only drawback is the inevitable litter problem.
Look out, Riverwalk, Savannah. Cross Street is coming for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
So I mean, so again, political action, and then we're also, I mean, again, like I said, so we've evolved in these different priorities for our organization. I think within the first 2 weeks, we really wanted to focus on, and really the first month, we really wanted to focus on doing food drops and getting food out to people who needed it. And then we evolved into this kind of financial mechanism and helping out financially. The next step really is going to be figuring out what needs there are for small businesses, around small food and beverage businesses in the Baltimore area, and how we can support those. I'm in talks right now with some folks about potentially helping with some like alfresco dining ideas. And, I think that there's going to be some initiatives that are popping up, and that's something that we've talked about helping to support financially with the money that we've raised, because I think that that's a really good physical impact that will help multiple different restaurants and multiple different, on many different levels. So, and then from there, there's a lot of different ideas that we have. It will probably shift more into focusing on like funding for entrepreneurial endeavors, loans, potentially low interest loans. All of these ideas are on the table. I can't say that we've committed to one or the other, but these are the things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, I think whatever works. I mean, try it all.
Yeah.
Throw everything at the wall.
That's
So
right.
it sticks for
Yep.
Christ's sake. Like if you guys are getting funds, you're getting money, you're getting grants, you're getting this and that and the other. Like this is what we should have been doing this whole time, and it took what a global pandemic for us to finally start talking about. Hey, maybe these people that are making our drinks and serving us food ought to be paid well, or this and that and the other. I mean, obviously the major consideration is in the future, we should expect to pay maybe a lot more, when we go out and eat a hamburger or whatever. And I am guilty as hell, saying, $9 for a hamburger? Bullshit. But like anything else, I think at this point, we really ought to think about what we're paying for and who we're supporting. And it's not a conversation that we've had enough up until this point. And I think what you're doing is bringing that to the forefront for sure.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Evan. And I do think that, even I lived in San Francisco probably, almost 15 years ago. But even at that time, there were certain restaurants and certain initiatives put in place where, there was like a surcharge on your bill. And basically that was put into sort of like a healthcare fund for workers, and different initiatives, I think will certainly start popping up because of this, and figuring out ways that we can, create support systems, for the people that serve us on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I want to stop short of making this like a legal mandate, but because I do think it should be up to the restaurateur or the person that's running the place, say either I'm going to put that line for tips or I'm paying my folks, $20 an hour, to make sliders. But there are so many solutions to this that it's good to see that you guys are now really getting creative and putting this together. And that's why we're sending you money.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
I appreciate it.
So if you can give us, plugs, your websites and this and that and the other, so that,
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, we're running a lot of different campaign initiatives. Those you can be found on our social media pages, which we are the Baltimore Restaurant Relief Fund on Facebook, at Be More Restaurant Relief on Instagram. Our website is www.bemorerestaurantrelief.org. But there's, like I said, there's so many different local businesses that are really contributing to the cause. National Bohemian was one that is national, that jumped on board, and they are doing a t-shirt, really cool Baltimore Strong t-shirt currently. I think that's going to be going through May. So, you should jump on that if you want a t-shirt. It's, it's pricey, but it's like $30 for a t-shirt, but like,
what is money right now?
100% of the profits do go to us. So we're greatly appreciative. Old Line Spirits is giving us 100% profits to their new whiskey, which is an aged or a whiskey aged in rum barrels. And then Union just
Casey, I'll take 5 of them.
Yeah, Union just released their kind of support beer for us, called Lean On Me. Really delicious double IPA. And I think they sold out like the first day they released it, at least at the brewery, but I think you can find it in some retailers. And they're going to be releasing it again next week. So that's great. Yeah. And there's a lot more initiatives out there. So check out our social media, and yeah, we really appreciate the support.
Cool, man.
And go to the Backyard Bistro.
The aforementioned unnamed Backyard Bistro experiment project.
Yeah, you guys haven't named it yet?
Not really. I mean, so it's at a friend's house who calls their house the Berry Street Bistro. So we're just gonna go with that.
Oh, that's cool.
If we do any other satellite, bistros, they'll all just be called the Berry Street Bistro.
Nice.
But yeah, Brian, you live right across the street from Union, so
I do.
Follow that shit, and as the instant that beer comes out, please go get it, and I'll gladly Venmo you.
I went to order it, and it was already sold out, so it went pretty quick.
All right, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show. I know you're out there getting a lot of press on this, so thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, man. We will see you later.
All right, take care.
Adios.